2 arrests and more than 130 mining equipments seized. The latest in government's fight to rid Ghana's major water bodies of illegal miners.
The Chinese, Wei Gang-ying and Wei Gang-ming, have all been handed over to the National Security for further interrogation. They will be prosecuted.
More as Lands and Natural Resources Ministry ban on prospecting and reconnaissance in forest reserves takes effect today. 4-year-old boy found dead in neighbor's room in Obuasi in the Ashanti region. Residents fear for the lives of their children and demand tighter security in the area. We are live in that community. Now this afternoon, we focus on job losses, salary cuts, and unfriendly labor practices at our workplaces ahead of May Day, which is tomorrow. And I have ICU and NLC for that conversation. Hello and welcome to today's edition of The Pulse. My name is Kojo Yankson and it's an honor to bring it to you. Stay with us for the next couple of hours and we'll bring you all from around the world. Let's get started. Now, armed soldiers have been tasked to take action against illegal miners who return to mine in water bodies. This is the latest directive from the government as soldiers completed the first phase of the operation geared at ridding the nation's water bodies of all forms of illegal mining. President Akufo-Addo on Wednesday deployed 200 men drawn from the Army, Navy and the Air Force to embark on this operation. There's more in this report.
Defense Minister Dominic Nitio says 2 Chinese nationals have been arrested and mining equipment seized.
The Ghana Air Force provided air cover and took aerial photographs of the operations. And by 18 hours, which is 6 p.m., when operations were halted for the day, 2 Chinese nationals were arrested at Atieku near Chufuprasu in the Central region. The Chinese, Wei Gang-ying and Wei Gang-ming, have all been handed over to the National Security for further interrogation. They will be prosecuted. Ladies and gentlemen, it is noted that since the commencement of the operation from Wednesday the 28th to Thursday 29th, the troops have destroyed a number of equipment, including 9 excavators, 127 chamfine machines platforms associated with mining equipment, 1 fuel pump. Furthermore, the following items have been seized and will be destroyed, except items that will be used as exhibit in courts. 8x24 plate batteries, 1 pump action gun case, a generator, Huawei phone, chainsaw machine, 8 raincoats, fuel filters, non-citizen Ghana card, ID card, 2 drilling equipment, and 2 boots. This will be destroyed except equipment that the police deem necessary for their work for prosecution. Otherwise, everything on site will be destroyed.
He warns persons who return to the mining areas do so at their own risk.
There will be constant monitoring of what they have done by the Ghana Air Force with assault people on board. And so don't think that you will go back after all. This is a 3 days wonder or 9-day wonder. No, don't go back. That's all that I said. And that they have been given instructions to take action on anybody who goes back. That's all that it has to do. So there's nothing that, oh, because somebody is mining by the roadside doing this, that's not the instruction that we have. Once they sweep a place and they're going to sweep all the major river bodies, they're going to sweep the forest reserves. When they sweep a place, and you think you will go back, you are just endangering your own well-being in this our little country called Ghana.
Government has suspended all mining and exploratory works in forest reserves. Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abujinapo says a monitoring team has been tasked to monitor compliance.
We are putting out telephone lines. Ghanaians can call to report that I live in Apamprama. There's a forest reserve. People are still engaged in prospecting there, or people are mining a forest reserve. The monitoring team will then alert the national security architectural apparatus so they can move in.
This is not the first time such armed military men have been deployed to check illegal mining. Only time will tell how successful this operation will be.
Let's try and have a conversation on this issue. Joining me on Zoom is Daryl Bosu. He's the Deputy National Director of Rosha Ghana. It's an NGO concerned about the environment. They were part of the recent stakeholder consultative meeting which recommended what we're seeing today. So, Mr. Bosu, thank you very much for your time. Tell us, does this reflect the decision taken, and how different do you think this operation will be from Operation Vanguard? If you can unmute your mic. Yes.
I think it's quite interesting to see the kind of actions government has put in place following the dialogue. I will have to say that if you look at the current pressure that our rivers, forest reserves are facing, these measures, which are meant to be quick solutions to what is on the ground, is really crucial. But the issue is that whilst putting in place these measures, which are meant to be quick, very deterrent measures, we need to ask about the long-term sustainability of these measures that have been put in place. I mean, so if you look at the current deployment of the 200 military officers, it's kind of similar to the Vanguard team that was deployed and worked for 2 years, and we still are where we are now. So we believe that these measures are, for me, the way we say it, are very quick, meant to come in and solve to deal with the pressures now, get people off the rivers and forest reserve. But I think the most important part of this whole exercise is we focus on how do we sustain these actions. That is a crucial part that the discussion need to look at.
Right. So for you, the issue is sustainability. But these initial actions that have been taken are not different from the actions that were taken at the beginning of Operation Vanguard. So if the step one of this new initiative is the same as step one of the old initiative, what should step two be in order to ensure success where the old initiative failed?
Great. So I think one of the key recommendations from the dialogue was, how do we decentralize the actions to address Galamsey? At the moment, I mean, before the dialogue, we realized that most of the action to address Galamsey was all coming from the top, the executive, I should say, where even the police, the district agencies did not have the power, because once they initiate an action, they get some interference or involvement from political actors, asking them to act in a particular way. And during the dialogue, this came out very strongly, and the recommendation was that we need to see the decentralized agencies like the police, district police command, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Minerals Commission stepping up their game, and also the political actors really staying away from these institutions. So we want for step two to make sure that the police, the district committees on illegal mining are all strengthened, are all inclusive, and we have a broad opportunity for all stakeholders at the district assembly to contribute to the process. Again, we need to see that these logistical support that is going to deployment of the military and even Vanguard, we need to see the same resourcing going to some of the decentralized agencies at the district, at the MMDA level. And that is the only way we can look at sustainability, achieving sustainability for some of these early measures we are putting in place. It is crucial that, yes, we look at the short-term measure, but also in the long term, we need to make sure that we resource the institutions at the local level to do their work.
Now, we haven't yet heard those who are the owners, the names behind these operations that have just been, thwarted by the task force. We don't know them. Should that not be a part of the process? Should we not be naming and shaming the people who own these businesses that are destroying our environment?
I think yes, that is a way to deal with it. But I believe that when we looked at the amendment to Act 703, the Minerals and Mining Act, we now have Act 995, which spells out the legal processes and procedures everyone involved in Galamsey should be taken through. And I think it is important we respect the rule of law and ensure that that process is adhered to. Otherwise, as I've seen the banning of some excavators and bulldozers, it will be amounting to kind of an instant justice, something we do not want to promote. So I believe that the law is very clear what to do with people who are found culpable. Let's let the law take its course. Naming and shaming could be one of the strategies to deal with it, but I think we should let the legal process, and that in itself is deterrent enough.
Right. So you have an eye on the environment beyond all the work that was done at the stakeholders' engagement. Your eye is permanently on the environment. So we've seen what has been done so far in the first 2 days. How soon will we start to see an impact, a positive impact of this operation on our environment, on the water and the quality of it?
So when it comes to impact and we reversing or recovering from the damage done to our rivers and streams, it's going to take some time. For the rivers and streams, we need to make sure that we completely stop any further activity in them. And once we do that, it's going to take not less than a year to make sure that these water bodies clear up. The water bodies will clear up, but we also need some more years to see that a lot of the heavy chemicals that have moved into the water bodies and all of that is completely also removed. And all of this will take time. For example, if you look at the areas of land that have been degraded, research indicates that for most of these degraded sites, you need no less than 10 years to ensure that you return the land to productive function. And when I say productive functions, not just from planting trees, but also to make sure that you can use this land to produce food for consumption. And this is what we need to be focused on. It's not going to be easy recovering from the damage. We need to give it some time. But until we stop the threat and the pressure, we wouldn't be able to succeed in this.
All right, well, let's hope that we see more and more positive results as this operation unfolds. Thank you very much, Darabosu, as the Deputy National Director of Arusha, Ghana. Right then, let's do some other stories. Residents of Yikpabungo in the Mampurugu Muaduri district of the Northeast region are calling on government to ensure the complete ban of illegal logging of economic trees in the area. According to them, years of indiscriminate felling of rosewood and other tree species have affected rainfall patterns and exposed the community to the vagaries of the weather and natural disasters. Now, the residents made this call after a heavy rainstorm rendered many homeless in the community, and they want government to flush out all illegal loggers and merchants in order to forestall future disasters. Our correspondent Eliasu Tanko visited the community. Here's his report.
The Yepabongo community, nestled in the corner of the Yizesiwa Trunk Road, was once rich in economic trees, including rosewoods and papa. Like many communities in this overseas district, it is now a community severely hit by illegal logging activities. On the 20th of this month, exactly a week ago, the small farming community of nearly 1,500 people was hit by a storm. The impact of the storm, according to the residents, was one of a kind never experienced in the area, although storm incidents are somehow common here. Buildings were ripped off, trees and electricity poles uprooted, leaving the victims and the animals struggle for shelter. In calling for assistance from the National Disaster Management Organization, the residents blamed the incident on the illegal cutting of trees in the area and demanded action from government. The storm was severe because the trees are no more there to play the windbreak function. At the community, we first met with the local chief at his palace. His spokesperson, Samari Bedell, he attributed the storm incident to the indiscriminate cutting of trees and asked government to immediately intervene. We want government to stop the cutting of trees here. We now struggle to get wood to roof our buildings. Government must stop them. For residents James Salifo, he wants the police in the area to be empowered to be able to fight the menace.
At first, the way the wind or storms that are coming, when trees were there, nothing like this has ever happened. This is my first time what I have seen. So I see that it will be good if they get anyone who is going to cut down a tree and send it out. Discipline should come out. I've seen that the down cut of the trees is now affecting us. Even now, some buildings, those trees were helping us to roof our building. But now other buildings are standing. Even for them to get wood for the roofing of their houses and then other things is now a problem. As I'm saying that discipline, where will the discipline will be? That means our police stations and then other areas, they are going to take those things.
But more crucially, some other residents say illegal logging has led to poor rains, resulting in crops failure in the last 3 years.
Initially, when those trees were there, the yield they were having as compared to after they have cut down the trees is not the same. It has reduced drastically. And sometimes too, when you enter the bush, those lands that were fertile at the time the trees were there, when you go there, the water has washed away the nice soil.
Ali Chas is a native nurse working at the health center in the community.
That's the cause, because those trees were protecting the community. If there were a storm like this, the storm will remain on the trees. But now that they've cut down those trees, when the wind comes, it removes the roofs. To me, such people, if they get such people, they should arrest them and imprison them.
In addition to climatic conditions, the community has also been suffering from social problems such as water scarcity and destruction of roads. Streams that run across the community continue to dry up owing to increasing temperature. In one of the dry up water sources in the community, these women were seen digging the soil in search of water.
We are searching for water by day. We suffer a lot to access water, especially in dry season like this. We are dying of thirst. Please come to our aid.
Earlier on our way to the community, we came across this scene.
I'm the owner. And this is my brother. He's the mechanic that work on the car in Kumasi.
So you all come all the way from Kumasi?
I'm from all the way from Tamil. So we don't know anything
about this consignment.
The consignment, the owner, if you want the owner, I can give you his contact, then you talk to me. Me now, we are here to salvage our car and send the car. But bear in mind, it's not Rose Route because we are not Rose Route. This is not Rose Route.
That's right.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
Say they call this one Papa. If Rose Route you can't export, I know very well because I asked him that if it is Rose Route, I will not let the car because there's a ban on Rose Route, of which I'm aware. Even though I don't deal in this thing wood, but I listen to wood news very well. I'm aware, and I work in Tema, and they are close by people that this Chinese that do. I went there to ask them what is the difference between Papa and Rose Route, and they showed me. That's right. That is why I allow the car.
Elias Sutanko reporting.
21-year-old Mason Richard Atta was lucky when a judge fined him 360 Ghana cedis for stealing. His inability to pay the amount, however, meant that he had to serve a 1-year jail term. Now, after serving 8 months, an agenda by the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative to help free petty offenders has helped secure his freedom. The human rights body believes that minor offenders, such as Richard, should be made to serve non-custodial sentences and not thrown into jail. Maxwell Agbagba has more on the campaign by the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative to keep minor offenders out of prison. Of course, starting with how Richard and his friend Sami gained their freedom.
It was a normal day for Richard until his friend asked him for a fun trip. He says after he complained about his financial difficulties, His friend later managed to convince him to snatch a woman's handbag on the street. An alarm was raised and he was nearly lynched. My mother and family members did not visit me at the police station. I am happy I'm free now. I did not get anyone to pay the 360 Ghana cedis fine for me. Prison is not the best place to live. We did not get good food here. The soup was like a mirror. I saw my face in it anytime I'm served. Humans are not supposed to eat that. I would advise young people to be careful out there.
What happened before you came there?
Richard's mate at the James Camp prison, Sammy, says he abandoned his work when he started facing financial difficulties and started breaking into the homes of his neighbors. He was arrested on the day he stole 1,300 Ghana cedis and a flat-screen television.
I'm a stubborn. I forget the work I do. I go ghetto. I follow friends, go stay ghetto, and live ghetto life. Follow friends, do bad things. You are breaking people's. If not catch, you go straight. If you meet you, I will collect your things and them things. Then I know how to collect something from someone. The thing is not yours. Do my own. If you sleep, I can come your room inside. Can break, take your things. If you're not there, I can break your door. Come steal you. The time you will come, you know. You will come see someone steal you.
The push for non-custodial sentences recently increased after the incarceration of actress Rosemond Adade Brown. Well, the Deputy Director of Prisons here at the James Camp Prison, Raphael Tuekpe, believes that non-custodial sentences will help decongest Ghana's prisons.
Was somebody going to steal one fowl, and then he's been thrown into prison for 3 years? Calculate the amounts that the government is going to spend on that person. If you ask me, it would be ideal if that person is sent to a poultry farm somewhere to support the poultry farm for even 6 months. It will help save the money that they will spend on the person as a feeding on him.
The Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative is concerned about the plight of the two men and many others across the country. Hence, its agenda to push for decriminalization of minor offenses, which it believes will result in more non-custodial sentences. The CHRI paid the fines of the two men and now have regained their freedom. Here's the group's director, Mina Mensah.
We are focused, as much as non-custodial sentencing is one of the areas that we are looking at, our focus on the decriminalizing of petty offenses. So there are some offenses in our books that have colonial antecedents. For example, loitering or not being able to pay for a fine, which is why we are here today. And those are things that were set up during the colonial era. And these laws still remain in our books. So because of that, we have people in prisons who could have been put to other uses. That is where the non-custodial sentencing comes in. So if the person cannot pay a fine, what you do is maybe community service. For example, we are crying about our streets being filthy. There are things that can be done. We are talking about planting for food and jobs. We could put people in there instead of keeping them incarcerated in prison for fines that might not be up to the amounts that the government would have to spend on them. For example, one of the people that we are getting out was fined 360 Ghana cedis, and he couldn't pay. So he had to spend some time in jail, I think 1 year. Now let's calculate how much the government will spend on that person for the 1 year. And let's look at the amount. It's ridiculous.
The future looked bleak behind the walls of the prison for the two men. Now they say they are going out to face their challenges head on. They say they will definitely see light at the end of the tunnel.
We've got so much more to talk about, including our spotlight on labor. That's all to come in just a short while. First, though, a few ideas on how to spend your money. You're welcome back. Now, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, is calling for a 15% salary increment ahead of the May Day celebration to deal with the current economic hardships, which it says is hitting hard at the Ghanaian teacher. President of NAGRAT, Angel Carbonu, who expressed disappointment with government's recent announcement of a wage freeze for the next 3 years, says a substantial increase in the salaries of workers will help cushion workers from the current economic pressure.
Of NAGRAT, Angel Kwabonu, who speaks for the group, indicates the current economic situation of the Ghanaian teacher is in a bad state. The NAGRAT president says the group is having to celebrate this year's May Day in the midst of a sudden escalation of prices of goods and services, adding this kind of hardship is what usually breeds corruption.
The economic situation is hitting hard on the Ghanaian worker, and indeed on the Ghanaian teacher. An immediate remedy ought to be found to ameliorate the situation we find ourselves in. A bag of cement, which we bought for 34 Ghana cedis last year this time, is now going for 50 Ghana cedis. In fact, building materials have had their prices generally gone up. Not to talk about food items that we buy in the markets on daily basis. The numerous fuel price increases have also contributed to the general price increases that have affected Ghanaian workers in general and teachers in particular.
Mr. Kabonu says, as teachers, the situation at their workplaces is of great concern to them, explaining why the numerous challenges facing the free SHS policy calls for a relook at the system. The only way to achieve that, he says, is through a stakeholder engagement.
Time has come for the government to constitute a stakeholder platform to analyze and review the free senior high school policy so as to improve the scheme. Apart from feeding fees, there are other fees on the bill that cater for the day-to-day running of our schools. There are challenges with the supply from buffer stock. We call for a relook at the role of buffer stock in supplying food items to our schools. We also have challenges with the payment of electricity for especially schools that are on prepaid meters, because those schools do not have difficulty in getting the money to pay for the government to reimburse. And as we speak, government is in arrears in paying back to the schools monies that they have used for their prepaid.
NAGRAT, whilst recognizing the importance of information technology in our various schools, also wants the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service to consciously remove all obstacles in the use and application of ICT in our schools.
Now, tomorrow is the 1st of May, and across the world, the day is being observed to recognize the role workers play in the development of the world and growth of local economies. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19 protocols, workers cannot gather in their large numbers to celebrate with the hustle and bustle that comes with it. Now, that notwithstanding, the day will be observed at the regional level with focus on economic recovery in the era of a global pandemic. This afternoon, we focus on job losses, salary cuts, general hardships for Ghanaian workers, and unfriendly labor practices at our workplaces. General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, Mr. Solomon Kote, is my guest. Also joining us on Zoom is the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Ofosu Asamoah. We often hear from that outfit during labor agitation. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
I hope I have both of you on the Zoom call. If you can unmute your microphones. I'll start with you, Mr. Kote. What exactly would you say is the current state of the Ghanaian worker?
Well, it's in the midst of a real difficulty, a situation that have had a backlog running almost 3 years plus, no proper salary reviews, because we suffered something in 2019, reared its ugly head in 2020, and in 2021, the indicators are that we're really going through very severe hardship. We think the government of the day will also be giving account as to how they have allowed things to go the manner that it has gone. At the moment, we as Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, we may want to say that government should help us to identify why up to now, 7 months running, we've not been able to establish the minimum wage, because Tripartite is in meeting, but the two social partners are all pointing fingers at government. The government says are bringing a paper, it has not been able to do so. Meanwhile, life is still ongoing. So we will be grateful once we are seeing the Executive Secretary of the Commission that maybe he will help us to know why, for the first time in 5 years, there has been a delay in establishing the minimum wage.
Right. Well, at this point, since it doesn't appear that government has any intention of formally and officially promoting the idea of an increase in wages, what exactly is the advice to the people in your sector? Would you advise them to agitate and put pressure on government? Or is there a general understanding of the current situation not being normal times?
Well, I'll say we have done a bit well to let our members appreciate that we came to a verge where we were almost losing our jobs, especially when the lockdown came and suddenly all our hotels and restaurants had to shut down with over 5,000 workers being affected in one employ. And then again, we noticed loss of wages. We noticed percentage cuts in salaries. We also noticed the employers having their weak ends and nothing they could do. Hence, if you watch carefully, we are urging all employees to join hands with the employers to make sure that whatever necessary sacrifice we have to undertake to bring our businesses back and to sustain what is available, unconditionally, we give ourselves up to it. Other than that, when the job is gone, we are also gone. So this is our effort. And we can say with every confidence that workers are showing understanding in this regard, because we cannot eat our cake and have it. We cannot get to a point where demand without balancing ourselves with what is feasible. And this is where we commend the Ghanaian worker for showing appreciation to the kind of sacrifice that all the stakeholders need to get our jobs right.
Is that what you would say is worth celebrating this year? Sacrifice? Or is there more that Ghanaian labor can beat their chest about?
Well, what we can say is that in the midst of erratic power supply, employers have had to take some major decisions, to affect, increases in salary here and there. We are saying in the midst of this economic recovery in the global pandemic that all workers should appreciate the fact that work is only available if the employer is on his feet, and work is gone if the employer has nothing to offer. Like we have added our voice to the testers industry, where they are pleading with government that, can you spare us another VAT? I should say yes, because we wrote to appeal for that. And they are saying they are not out of the woods yet. So we will not be in a position where losses are being made, and yet we will come and say, give us additional income. We will not be able to do that. And therefore, we are urging workers not to start any agitation now, saying that will affect our fortunes in getting the little that is possible for us to manage before the worst happens.
Mm. Right, let me bring in Mr. Fosu Asamoah. Now, it's difficult to to predict the future for labor in Ghana this year, but we do know that everything is more expensive, from transportation to telecommunications to accommodation to food. It seems the only thing that has gone down in price is face masks. But labor is not expecting to go up in value. We're not expecting, pay rises in the coming year. As an institution that, overlooks some of these issues when they come up, what are your thoughts on how labor should react to this rather severe belt tightening that seems to be ahead of us all?
Thank you, and to your listeners and your watchers. Sure, as well. I must say that Mr. Kuti, I think, said it all, that they will urge their members, and for that matter, the labor front to be a little accommodative as they have been over the period in respect of what the government and the employers should be doing for them. We are all aware, just as is mentioned, that with the advent of COVID, most companies and establishments, they either have to shut down, may have gone down. So apart from the fact that you may not get an increase, whatever they may have invested or expected by way of profit has also gone down. We are aware of the hospitality industries, where most of them had to close down, virtually shut down. People had to reduce numbers, and if you come to those in the discos, the bar operators, and so on, virtually, and even for us, even in my own office, we have to reduce the numbers. We go close for about a month. We receive between 80 to 120 a month. So that if we're closing down in a month, you see that the number of cases we would have dealt with within the month will not be dealt with. And for that matter, generally, production has gone down everywhere, both in the service sector, in the industrial sector, and everywhere. So I think the labor should be a little accommodative of what they expect from government and the employers.
Now, Mr. Ofosu-Asamoah, your commission has a very central role to play in resolving issues when they come up, and there have been quite a lot of issues recently. We've heard from nurses agitating, teachers have been agitating as well. ECG recently calling for, among other things, the removal of their boss. Several issues have come up recently, and the message from the NLC is almost invariable: go back to the negotiating table. There are some who feel that there is so much more that the Commission could be doing to move issues towards amicable solutions. But it appears that the only thing that we hear from you is a call for people to return to the process when the process has broken down. How do you respond to that criticism?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me, Mr. Ofosu-Asamoah?
Hello?
Yeah, I hope you can hear me now.
I'm actually not hearing you.
Hello?
I'm not hearing you.
Right, okay. We're going to try and clean up that connection and get more from Mr. Ofosu-Asamoah. But in the meantime, let's speak to our other guest. And I mean, you seem optimistic in spite of the fact that things are not quite looking as promising as they were for workers this year, Mr. Solomon Kute. Now, for your union, a lot of what you do depends on the strength of the economy. A lot of your success comes from the strength of the economy. How do you assess that, and do you foresee that we are on a path of recovery that will result in better conditions for those who work in the commercial sectors, at least in the coming year?
Thank you. I will say boldly that the experts have made us aware that the COVID had come to stay. And once it has come to stay, we need also strongly to think outside the box and get something doing. If we don't break the cycle and we say because of COVID we will remain where we are, that will not help us. Again, we are hearing messages from India and Brazil, how the COVID has mutated again and the death toll is rising higher and higher. For us in ICU, we think it's about time that with united purpose, the employer, the employee, and for that matter, government to a large extent, should be able to devise a means to be able to live our lives this new normal will break one day, but not in the immediate near future. From what we are reading from other economies and other countries, it is better we get a posture and a position to actually deal with this pandemic situation. Hence, we have taken the position to say a time of collaboration is needed now than ever. A time where we will sacrifice a little here, sacrifice a little there, as I've said earlier. Anything short of that, we are not in normal times for us to be demanding normal things. As my brother from the National Labour Commission said, production is out of target, revenues are out of target, and things are not really normal where we could say we have been able to achieve or overachieve or give us this. But I will pause here and say some employers have been very excellent in the midst of this COVID. Even though they are using skeleton staff, they are using, some kind of shift system to. They have still been able to pay the full salaries to workers, even though some will stay in the house about a week without coming, and therefore in the month they only work for 2 weeks. Some employers have shown commitment; they've gone ahead and pay full salaries. So if the review that should come, Labour also look at it in one way or the other, because I'll be the first also to admit that not all employers have been affected in a higher magnitude of the COVID. Some could manage, others could not. And then those who are managing, we are grateful to them, and I'll use this your platform to acknowledge that. But to a large extent, we need to have a rethinking as to how we organize ourselves in this era of this pandemic. The challenge now is we don't know when it's going to reboot again in Ghana, because in 2020, when we thought it was all gone, then to the ending part of December 2020 and then January, February, it struck again. And then look at the kind of death toll we recorded, challenges that came across. So we will, at this point, keep telling all workers everywhere that let's continue to observe the protocols the way it is and appreciate what employers are going through. And it's about time that employers also come out and share information. Let the workers know this is where we were before pandemic, this is where we are now, and this is what is possible. If this thing comes, the supposed expected agitation will get a natural, death, and there's no need for it at all. But where the employer is still sharing information as to what effect has this pandemic brought to the business, what size of the market share we have lost, how we are struggling to break even. These things we are encouraging employers also to share with the employees. If this is done, we will have such a great understanding as to what we are all sacrificing against the future, because we know one day it's going to be well. And when it is well, employers should also appreciate that workers in this difficult time will sacrifice, and therefore, if there should be any compensation or anything to show appreciation for what we have done in these hard times, then workers will also be grateful.
Right. Now, Angel Carbonu of NAGRAT is of the view that when salaries are not increased in the light of increasing prices, that might become a trigger for corruption. How do you respond to that?
Well, I disagree with him a bit, because we are not in normal times. And like I said in my last bit, if the employer is sharing how the COVID has affected them, and I gave classical example. Now, in most institutions, because our offices were not charged to keep just a skeleton staff, but one office you have 8 people, and the room is not that accommodating enough with this corona infection. So employers say, 4 of you this week don't come to work, which is a cost to business. If these things are explained well, and workers themselves see that, look, the whole month I have worked for only 2 weeks, yet I'm taking 1 full month's salary. Okay, here workers will show appreciation and create the indulgence of every colleague that it's about time we all help to overcome this pandemic exercise. And then when things get normal, we'll be able to fly. But if in this abnormal time and the businesses themselves, are going down, and then we say, give us more in addition, then we don't want to salvage the situation. We want the businesses to fold up. I gave an example that in 2018, we were out there pleading with government that the textile industry was virtually sinking. So some relief should be given. We had the VAT being written off for them for the next 3 years. We are out there now, but things have not improved. They are asking us, give us that relief still for us to continue. So workers at those places are not demanding that come, let's have full salary increase here and there. The issue now is every employer to tell his story as it was and as it is now and what the future holds for us. And I think every objective worker will appreciate the fact that, look, it's about time we all help to submerge out of this pandemic economic disaster, and then the future will be bright for all of us. It's more about education, let's share information.
Right. I want to thank you very much for joining us for that conversation, and that, of course, includes you, Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Ufusu.
I'm grateful.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Solomon Kote was representing the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union as the General Secretary. Thank you both. Mr. Ufusu Asamoah, sorry. Yeah. All right. Thank you both. And let's do some other stories. The police in Obuasi Buete, in the Obuasi East district of the Ashanti region, have arrested a tenant who allegedly murdered a 4-year-old today. Obaya, the mother of the deceased, told Adom News' Isaac K. Nomanyo that her son was bathing when she left the house to buy porridge. She said upon her return she couldn't find her son, so she drew the attention of other tenants in the house. A search found the dead body in the room of one of the tenants by name Kwame, who is said to be in his 20s.
Buete in the mining town of Obuasi have been thrown into a state of shock after body of the boy who went missing was found in the room of the suspect, who stays in the same house. Mother of the boy, Obaya, tells Love News the boy went missing yesterday after he went out to bath in the early hours of Thursday.
Timidin suoni ikosi hono na na mesumi kodware ba na mesiesie mu nti me ma me ba no se na kofiwe na msi wani wo fa ne na fofo no echiro timiko echiro me ko no no na me ko ka kire me papa se me hu kofiwe na mahwehwe akohwe ne dwuma mu ni awoni ho na papa ka se na sadia me ko ya announcement wo abodukrum no no so ko police station akoye announcement nti me guso hwehwe na ya dan ba ko bi won chen na msi debi ohonum na tele ni bi wo ho na teacher ni bi nso wo rent dan wo no me friend so mbra ne hwe dan ti egusu hwehwe mo na teacher ni ne hwe mpanase ti o peja no hu se akra na mo no ho hye won to peja na onti me nka no do no no peja no me hu se o da ba me friend na no nka no na me dumi ka be ka kire me ma me se akra na hye mpana so a friend na won je so.
The lifeless body of little Nana was found the next day under the bed of a co-tenant and suspect, Emmanuel Kwame J. He has been telling police he had a voice in him ordering him to kill the boy. He fled to neighboring Diawuso after the heinous act and sought refuge in the residence of a pastor who handed him over to the Obuasi police. Residents are scared for the lives of their children.
Me body agro ba me bani agro na di agro ente yesa no mpo me kama me ba no na me ka che wo mo se mo hwehwe nkofo dan enhwe sa akola no hye ho a ti wona me wona ne na be fra me se ampa asema me kan mo ko hwe ebo ne dan mo no akola no hye mpa na se nti se me ehu abo me pa me nyank me fru okromu ya
akola ni mpo de da bia no one ne nana no ekọ ba bia ba enti me anopa no friend se wo huni nana no ani se me bedru ya ye ka kire me se de abania me ba ya de abesi ni.
Police say they are still investigating. Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaredonko, Buete, Obuasi in the Ashanti region.
So that was Erastus Asaredonko's report. Let's learn a little bit more. Erastus, this is such a tragic incident. We understand that Kwame, the suspect in whose room the dead body was found, has now been arrested?
The day when he committed the heinous crime, allegedly, he fled the house and went to stay just about a mile away from Buete, a town called Diawuso, and he sought refuge in a pastor's house. He told the pastor that some people are after him. And when he queried as to why they will be after him. He said, well, I killed a boy in the early hours of today. And so the pastor hid him in his house and informed the police, who apprehended him from the house.
Do we have any indication at all as to the motive behind this crime?
Come again, could you?
Erastus, do we have any indication at all as to the motive behind this crime?
What he has been telling police is a bit scanty, but he keeps saying that something told him to just kill the boy. They've been trying to find out whether indeed he killed the boy for ritual purposes, but he says that no, the voice just told him to strangle the boy, and so he killed him. But what police are saying that whilst he was under interrogation yesterday, it looks like he was under the influence of illicit drugs because he was dazed and he wasn't responding correctly to questions. And so today they are going to repeat the examination again, that's the interviewing, to find out more as to why he will kill a boy he has been living with in the same house for a long time, hide the body under a bed, and flee the house.
Do we have any further clarity on the age of the suspect?
Come again on the
age of the suspect.
He is 20. He is 20 years. Emmanuel Kwame is 20 years. We are told what residents know about him is that he's a weed smoker. He's among some youth who used to smoke weed in that particular vicinity. What has not been established is whether it's the weed alone or he adds some other concoctions to it, and whether his motive for killing was influenced by these illicit drugs.
Is he known to have an occupation? Is he a student or is he a worker?
Well, his father is somebody who produces charcoal in the bush. And so he assists sometimes, but he himself is unemployed.
Right. How about the victim, the young boy who was killed? What have we learned about him?
The victim is a 4-year-old boy, very naive. And in fact, the boy plays in the vicinity, the whole house. They live in the same house. Their door is just closed to that of the suspect. And so they live in the house. In the morning, the mother said the boy wanted maize porridge, and then he did it for him, but he said that he wanted to eat Tom Brown. So she asked the boy to go and bath. So it's like he set up some water outside for him to bath. So it was after some minutes that the boy wasn't coming back to his room. Then he got alarmed. They started searching for him, and they searched the whole house. They couldn't find him. They searched nearby houses. They couldn't find him. And so one of the tenants brought up the idea that they should start searching individual rooms in the house, because sometimes he sneaks into people's rooms and all that. That was when they searched this boy's room, and they found his lifeless body under his bed. He was foaming in the mouth, and he was naked because he was bathing. And the boy told police that, yes, he wrapped his head in a sheet. And how he killed him, he told police how he killed him. I cannot say that on air. It's too sensitive.
Right. Now, it's such a tragedy. At this point, he's in police custody, but the community are alarmed and they are afraid of further occurrences. What is the cause of that fear?
Well, it is born out of, I'm told, they are afraid that these days it's not even cool to be able to get your child to go and play safely with others. And that is the concern, because if you live in the same compound house, children will play together. Sometimes they go into people's rooms to play around and all that, watch TV. with this coming up, is it safe? How safe can your child be, even within people he's been playing with? How can your child even enter somebody's room and you can keep your peace of mind that nothing will happen to him or her? That is the kind of concern that people are expressing.
Erastus, thanks for that update. No doubt we'll be learning more in the coming days. Now, residents of Sakrawunu in the Ashanti region fear the community may be cut off following the deterioration of a bridge linking the community to other parts of the district. Now, their fears have heightened after half of the weak bridge caved in at the onset of the rains. They say contractors packed and left the community after the Vice President and other NPP stalwarts used the road to attend the one-week rites of the late CEO of the Forestry Commission, Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie. Love FM's Nanaya Ojima has more. Here's his report.
Drivers have to skillfully maneuver their way to cross the bridge, which has partially caved in. With the continuous rains recently, the concrete culvert of the bridge is being washed away. Contractors have abandoned the road, heightening fears of total collapse. Francis Owusu spoke to the media.
No construction work has been done on the road, and as a result, the bridge between Uno and Asrumaso has caved in, which has made the portion of the road not only a death trap, but also unmotorable.
The community, led by Queen Mother Nana Amenyako, thronged the streets to register their displeasure at government's delay to fix the deplorable road. She believes the contribution of former NPP General Secretary Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie, who hails from the community, is enough reason to influence the rehabilitation of the road. The Queen Mother threatened to stop government functionaries from attending the final funeral rites of Sir John if the road is not fixed. She says, "We are pleading with government to complete the project for us. If they refuse to do so, we will bury our deceased without them." They should at least honor Sir John with this road. Meanwhile, District Chief Executive for the area, Osei Bonsu, says road projects in the Kwabri East District have progressed at a slow pace for financial reasons. He says there are efforts to get the contractors back on site.
The contractor be a certificate and
all the contractors here in the district are telling me that they are waiting for their certificates to be honored. It means they do not have money, but this contractor has assured me he will resume work next month.
Yes, critical because one of can't meet you will and go to the other side. And want to ask on your joint.
For JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Some politics now. Former President John Dramani Mahama is pushing for the deployment of professionals to thoroughly police the 2024 electoral process at all levels. According to the 2020 flag bearer of the NDC, the party has established that, quote, illiterate party agents deployed to man polling stations negatively affected the fortunes of the party. Now, he argues that the expertise of NDC professionals would be required in the transmission of electoral results and collation of same, and also to ensure the integrity of the 2024 polls. Now, he spoke at an annual conference of the NDC Professional Forum in Accra yesterday.
The event witnessed the presence of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babin, former President John Dramani Mahama, Chairman of the party, Samuel Fosampofo, among others. The forum forms part of the reorganization strategy adopted by the NDC to strengthen the party ahead of the 2024 polls. The former president, speaking to the participants, revealed that some regional chairmen have established that the deployment of party agents who could not read or write contributed to the party's defeat in the 2020 polls.
Because you should have listened to some of the regional reports, and they were very interesting. There was one region, I won't mention which region it was. They said, oh, some of our party agents were illiterate. They couldn't read or write. And then the chairman asked, he said, but who appointed them? Who made them party agents? You know, so it's obvious that they themselves have started doing a review of what went right or what went wrong.
Mr. Mahama, however, charged the professionals to participate in the 2024 electoral process to ensure the integrity of the polls is safeguarded.
And we must ensure that we have more professionals, more educated people coming into play in respect of policing and monitoring the elections at the grassroots level. And so collation of results is an important activity that the expertise that you people carry can help in terms of collating the party's results in good time and then also transmitting the results. I mean, a lot of you in your professional work have had to use information technology, IT, and now IT is becoming, you know, very important in terms of transmitting results and getting results in good time to be able to undertake the political decision-making that is needed.
On the 2021 election petition, Mr. Mahama argued that the petition was designed to aid chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jane Mensah, to evade accountability.
We were scored 7-0 on many occasions. We asked for replay 7-0, and then one time it even went to 9-0, and then the final score was 7-0, and so it brought to an end the processes of the presidential election, especially considering that we decided not to go for a review, and so it means that we have brought an end to the presidential election processes. Even though we disagreed with the ruling of the court because we believe that a lot of things went wrong, and it was most unfortunate that the court did not give the opportunity to the Electoral Commissioner to come and defend her own declaration of the presidential results.
He also criticized government over what he describes as victimization of Ghanaian professionals associating with the NDC.
We have a lot of people who support the NDC, but they hide under the covers and are not willing to show their faces as supporters of NDC. Of course, you can understand why. With opponents who are so vindictive, I mean, for many of them who are still in service, I mean, showing their faces is often dangerous. It's not the same when NDC is in power. I mean, people very, freely identify with the MPP when NDC is in power, and they don't suffer any adverse consequences for it. Not the same when they are in power. There's a lot of vindictive, hunting down of people who are believed to be NDC and taking them out of job.
On his part, chairman of the party, Samuel Ofosampofu, observed that quality education is needed at the grassroots level to ensure constituency executives do not falsify signatures to deny the party victory in an election.
I think what we need to do is to develop a strong linkage between the Pro Forum and the party school, to develop curriculum to empower the grassroots through knowledge acquisition, for them to understand our identity, what we stand for, so that some constituency executive or constituency secretary will not go and falsify signature for something small to deprive the party of victory in the constituency. I believe that we need to go back to the roots. We need to go back to who we represent and who we are as a party. And I believe that with the intellectual...
Right. The national chairman of the new patriotic party, NPP, Freddie Blay, has explained that a decision by President Akufo-Addo to cut down on the size of government and appoint members of parliament as deputy ministers resulted in the Volta region receiving fewer ministerial appointments. He further indicated that the region received one sector ministerial appointment for the governing party, Mr. Blay, who was reacting to an uproar on the low number of ministerial appointments from the voter region, believes the situation would change in the future if the party wins more parliamentary seats. He was speaking to the media after an engagement with NPP voter regional and constituency executives in Ho.
The voter region, we have just a seat, as I'm telling you. The president made it his decision that he wants to cut down on the size of, because a lot of criticism in the past had been on against the size of the government. Now he made it as a policy to give deputy ministerial jobs to those who mainly are in parliament, except very professional positions. And apart from the Attorney General, then a couple of people, 2 or 3 people, most of the deputy ministerial appointments went to members of parliament. You could see that voter region has only one ministerial position, and that one went to the only member of parliament that comes from the region. It's a pity. Next time, I believe there will be more positions or more ministerial and deputy ministerial positions from this region. And I believe they've already promised, the party has promised, they work harder, ensure that we have more ministers. The government takes its decisions based on policy directives and its manifesto, and is developing this country irrespective of geographical location, dependent on the needs of that region. And indeed, we think we are, as a nation, and this government is more interested in ensuring that we develop as one nation and not just as individual regions. And it's not paying particular attention to any other region more than a particular region. I think development is being spread across all regions. And we've discussed, we've interacted, we've discussed matters concerning the party, reviewed the result that we've had, the performance of the region as compared to its performance earlier time, that is 2016 and 2012 and so forth. And we are quite satisfied, except that, of course, we have not had many seats as we had expected. We had only Hohoi. But even then, we're going to improve upon it. And members have expressed their desire to work hard and improve upon the results of what we had earlier. Work in progress. We are seeing to it that any meeting, any disagreement or dispute between the minister and the regional party is being taken care of. So I think it's an internal matter. We will soon resolve it.
Right, there's more to come on the Pulse. Stay with us. We're back after these. You're welcome back. Now, there's a new book coming out soon. It was authored by Dr. Barbara Ensua. The title is A Woman's Guide to Her Body and Her Total Health. Now, the book is to empower women so that they know about their bodies, what diseases affect them, how they can both prevent those diseases and be knowledgeable about them. It teaches, among other things, how to treat minor illnesses like common colds and allergies at home, for symptomatic relief. And of course, the need to see a health professional if there is no improvement thereafter. Dr. Ensua is a Ghanaian medical doctor. She has practiced for the last 30 years in the United States. And she shares her experiences in this book. She's with us now via Zoom. Let's learn a bit more. Dr. Ensua, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay.
First of all, why don't you share with us the inspiration behind this book?
Well, having practiced medicine for over 35 years, actually, I came across a lot of patients who had no clue about maybe the medicines they are taking, no clue about their diseases. And for such patients, it's very difficult to have meaningful conversations with them during an encounter. And so I had the inspiration actually from God to go ahead and put together a book which would address people's needs, not only physical, but emotional and psychological and then spiritual. So it's all together in one volume. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what I have now. The book is actually 650 pages and it's divided into 3 sections. Medical issues from head to toe, and then we also address some of the common psychological or mental issues like depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and others like that. And then we go on to the spiritual. And the reason I added the spiritual is that all 3 intertwine and give you a balanced life. And so that's why we had the spiritual aspect as well.
Right. Now, I mean, you're a doctor. You've been treating women for quite some time. And that would explain why you would, you would want to put your expertise in a book. But then there's the mental and the spiritual aspects as well. Are you a pastor, a preacher? Is that where your experience comes from for that?
Yes, it does. And also in the practice of medicine, because in medicine, you don't have to be a psychiatrist to be able to diagnose somebody with anxiety, to be able to diagnose somebody with depression. Okay, we see it commonly in our practices. And the important thing is to let patients realize that those diseases, just like if they had high blood pressure and diabetes, they have to take medication. Sometimes you either have to take medication or go for therapy, talk therapy, in order to get better. So it's very important. It's unfortunate that we have many people with mental problems and they are not getting help because either their healthcare provider doesn't believe in treating people with anxiety and depression, or the people are not addressing that issue when they go for a visit to see a doctor. And then when it comes to the spiritual part, I'm a Christian. My faith is in Christ. And I've found out that having all 3 together helps you live a balanced life. And I say in the book that this book is not for Christians, it's for anybody. And if you are not comfortable reading the spiritual part, that's fine. Just read the first 2 parts so that you will be equipped to make meaningful trips, visits to your doctor when you go and see a doctor.
What would you say, in your experience, is perhaps the most common misconception that women have about their body and their health, which perhaps the book may touch on?
Yeah, the first thing too is that a lot of women think that they don't have the power to take control of their health. Okay, they tend to depend on the health provider and think, well, he or she has gone to school, she knows what's wrong with me. And so they do not address things that may come up, which they themselves can take care of, or which will alert them that, look, with this problem, you need to go and see somebody. You don't have to sit down. And when you are empowered, then you can have control over your body in the sense that there are other areas like what we call therapeutic lifestyle changes. This is eating right, exercising, socializing. All of this goes in to make you who you are and give you better physical health as an individual. Right. So that was the area I wanted to point out to bring all the 3 aspects together.
It's fascinating. When will the book be out?
The book is already out. We launched it last Saturday. And as you can see, this is a copy. And I have to say, it's not only for women, it's for men too, because 80% of the things we but talk about and suggest treatment and diagnosis and all that affect both men and women. There are certain areas which are particularly for women. For example, women going through the change, perimenopause or menopause area. Women who have gone through divorce, for example. Right. We treat that in the mental health area because they can have issues when it comes to that. Right. Women who, before their period, may feel their emotions are like this. We call it the premenstrual syndrome.
Well, don't give it all away. You know, leave us something to buy the book for. Where can we get copies?
There are many places in Ghana that you can get copies. You can get it at Legon Bookshop, Kingdom Bookshop in Osu, EPP. You can get it at NS Pharmacies. They have it in several of their shops. And even online, you can sit at home and just order the book online through booknook.com. And they would even arrange delivery for you.
That's wonderful. Dr. Barbara Enswa, a US-based Ghanaian doctor, with the book coming out very soon. Thank you very much for making the time to speak to us. All right, more coming on The Pulse after these.